Sorry, apologies. Davide Benedetti.
Draggaggi e bonifiche a
Eco-dredging and environmental reclaiming. Please be as brief as you can because we really don't have much time.
Allora, buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Davide Benedetti. I represent Decomar. I'd like to very briefly thank Ecofuturo and Jacopo for the also Fabio Roggiolani and Giuliana Gabbani for their excellent work, and they've made it possible to realize a dream, to look at a problem and tackle it in an Italian way. Some of these impossible seeming problems have been part of Italy's past. We're talking about clean technology. This is a new model. So you can see a ship here. It says that eco-dredging is possible. The eco-dredging era has arrived. So we've moved from a dream to reality. The dredging according to traditional systems is over. That was part of the linear economy, an economy with nothing to do with nature. In nature, all life cycles are circular, and so Limpida is based on this model. It starts from a new paradigm to recover resources. In the last 50 years, we've seen that there's been a 7-fold increase in the use of raw materials and energy. In some raw materials have seen its use increase by 25 times, and it's unsustainable. If you're producing a mobile phone or anything, your first goal should be to reuse resources. We have 4 main points. There are 4 main stages: taking the resources, modeling them, consumption, and what happens after they've been used. However, we take away some of these steps because we have to reuse products. This is clean technology. I'll explain very briefly how this works. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Dredging is an activity which moves huge amounts of sediment from basins and rivers and ports, etc. Well, we do this with clean technology, but what we do is through taking only a selection. We're selective. We have the real problem in these activities, which have paralyzed not just Italy, but the whole world. It's a huge market today. But it seems unlikely that it can be sustainably developed and also respect the environment. But across the world, in Italy as well, Italy has been subject to European guidelines. So perhaps it's one of the countries that has actually been a driving force in arriving at clean technologies. But we have to be able to protect the environment. And so far that hadn't happened. So we take the sediment in a closed circuit. We don't pollute the water. We classify the samples and separate them according to their form and weight. We take away any outside elements, so we have homogeneity in our product, and we dehydrate any of the pollutants. And what happens is that we do all this within the water without taking any water. So the fish, anything else around it, is not affected by this non-invasive work. They can live side by side with it. So far, dredging has been very invasive of the environment. And today's development model wasn't just unsustainable because of the environmental impact, but it was also unsustainable because it couldn't reconcile a fundamental principle, which is reusing resources. Dredging today is very invasive of the environment, but it also just moves the problem. It takes the sediment and just moves it somewhere else. And it just takes the problem elsewhere. That's absolutely unsustainable. This had blocked up all the ports and immobilized the Italian and European economy. Anytime we had this sediment that could be environmentally damaging, we had to realize that when we're talking about contaminating sediments, they have a certain mass. Whatever the parts per million or parts per thousand it was of the original sediment, sediment was, of course, natural, was sand. It was there before the ports. It was actually only the environmental activities that had that impact and had polluted the sands. So we started to look at this problem and say that if a pollutant is 1 part per million, if we can separate them, then we realize that the waste would disappear. When we're talking about big areas, Palermo, La Spezia. Speaking time, please. You know, when you dredge, you have 1 kilo that's polluting and 99 kilos that don't. So this is just an example of how the clean technology works. This is the fluid. It's separated. You can see that. You can see the sand without water. That's also classified. This is something that we do with the Environment Ministry. We do this in La Spezia port. That was where we saw the end of the old technologies. This is where the pollutants go. So that you can see they're reduced in volume and in weight. And a large part of the materials are recovered. Before, the sands just used to go to waste, whereas now they can be used. And that's really the goal of clean technology. Just to finish. Politics normally requires a joint effort to work on the future of our country, of European citizens. Politics should usually provide direction. But I think that today we have to encourage politics because the clean technology is already there. What we need is for the legislation to follow, to encourage people to use resources in a more in a better way, and that will provide benefits for energy and for the climate and for sustainable development. Thank you.
Caro Davide, anche a te che te la meriti tanto, veramente, davvero te la meriti moltissimo. Prego, guarda che merito.
Grazie a tutti. Grazie.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.